Sup guys, Moldy Fish Dicks, back at it again, 2 years later with another Half-Life mod review. This time we're reviewing Swelter. Swelter is a mod that has been out for 2 years that I actually voice acted in, and I have not played it until just recently. And boy, I don't know what's going on with me, man, but I'm back. I'm 2 years older and I'm back. The first half of this video will just be a spoiler-free review, my overall thoughts about the gameplay, writing, world design, and sound. The soundtrack is just awesome. And then we'll be getting into the analysis of the story and retrospective as a whole. The first aspect about this game that is probably a 10 out of 10 is the soundtrack, and we have to thank this guy right here. Go and check out this video right here. Like, it doesn't even sound like it's supposed to be for a mod. It sounds like it's supposed to be for a full production game, so I really hope that this guy gets more recognition. It's been a while since I've played a Half-Life game, and I kind of missed the feeling of playing a Half-Life game, and this soundtrack just brought it back instantly, and I was like, I remember this feeling. I kind of miss this feeling. You tend to forget how important a soundtrack is until you just kind of get that adrenaline rush. Like with Doom Eternal, it's just game changing. And with this one, they hit the mark in so many ways because it does feel like a Half-Life game, and it feels like its own original game as well. So music, 10 out of 10, and I will say, you know, another aspect of this game that is just 10 out of 10 is the voice acting. Your boy, I don't know. I don't know who did the voice acting for this game, but whoever the protagonist is, man, 10 out of 10. I'm not biased at all. I didn't have any part in this game, and the voice acting was just incredible. I was really immersed, and I love it. I think it's kind of hard for me to make an unbiased review without me being biased because, you know, it is a really great game. It is a really fun game. But this is where I will be fair on everything. I'll even be fair on myself. Dude, I cringed so hard when I was hearing myself. I don't think you understand when you voice act in a game and you listen to it over again, you're like, I could do that so much better if I just did it again. You know, like I wasn't even told to put on an American accent. I just thought, you know, I'd do it. But, you know, I don't know. Hey, that's not for me to decide. That's for you guys to decide. If you guys think I'm shit, let me know down in the comments below. And I do think that there were some pretty decent voice actors, but there were definitely times where I just couldn't hear them. I'm being honest, like I just couldn't hear them over the music or the gameplay. And it was during some pretty pivotal moments where I had to rely on the subtitles to understand what was going on. I didn't hear a single word you just said. But let's be real with each other right now, fellas, alright? Who's better, Moldy Fish Sticks or 3650? I think we know who's better. It's obviously me. I think that Entropy02 set the bar pretty high, and it is a really tough bar to hit, but they have shown that it can be done, even with a very small team, and they show that it can be done phenomenally. That said, when you're playing a Half-Life mod, you're not really there for the voice acting, so how is the gameplay? And ladies and gents, do I have a lot to say about that? I think that on this aspect, it is pretty on par with Entropy02, if not even a little bit better in some aspects. The sniper is so much fun. The movement itself, the animations have changed, but the movement feels better. It feels like it's still like Half-Life as well. The mod setting and environment is awesome. The map design is incredibly unique, and the puzzles are very good. At times I thought the puzzles were bad, but then figured it out after like 5 to 10 minutes of tinkering and realized that I was incredibly stupid, and that's exactly how puzzles are supposed to be. For me at least, there wasn't a time where I thought a puzzle was unfair or overly complicated apart from one building with a car on this platform where I was transfixed by these green light symbols and tried to figure out why one of them was still red, but I didn't realize that I had already completed the puzzle and was wasting my time. And yeah, the music is incredible, but it also complements each level that you progress to, all of which feel unique and interesting. The story itself is very simple but very effective, and there were twists and turns and oh shit moments that I was not expecting. But before I get into the story analysis, I will touch on some more negatives as well. Something that was quite glaring was the weapon pacing. At first you get a combine stun stick, then you instantly get a USP, then right after that you get an MP7 and grenades and shotguns, and it felt like not only an hour later I had everything I needed, and I was not sparing ammo in the slightest because it was littered everywhere. There were unlimited crates of explosives and munitions around every corner, which made the gameplay easy and far less rewarding. I know this isn't trying to be the original Half-Life 2, but something that made that game feel extremely special was the slow progression of equipment that Gordon Freeman slowly obtained. The main difference is Gordon Freeman is just a young buck scientist turned survivalist, and this protagonist is a seasoned resistance fighter regrouping with his mate, so it does make sense on a lore perspective. But I would have liked more of an immersive survivalist sequence of events that led up to the moment of him reuniting. But nope, you just straight up get shit given to you by your boys, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. And another aspect of this game, this might be the only really bad aspect of this game, is the magnetic pusher. About halfway through the game you get a prototype gravity gun, which is a cool idea, but aside from it only being able to fuss road I barely felt the need to get it out and use it. I may have used it a few times and that was it. I tried to use it in other sections that I thought it would work in, but it just had literally no use at all. And on to my personal final negative about this game. I think Iron Sights does feel incredible, and even though I said it sucks on the handguns, it overpowers virtually every single other gun in the game and makes you rely on it for pinpoint precision. I feel that Half-Life is more of a hip-fire game in my opinion, but that's just me. With that out of the way, my spoiler-free review of this game, it would be around an 8 out of 10 for a Half-Life mod. Look, the price of it being free does play a big factor into my review, but the campaign was decent in length and I feel like I got a lot of fun out of it, and there's even a really fun bonus mission where you're in Aperture Science buildings trying to escape, but I will touch on that later into the spoiler section of this video. If you haven't played this game, I highly urge you to play it and come back and watch this video after you have finished playing it, because it is really, really good. Alrighty, with that out of the way, let's get into the story summary and analysis of this game. Swelter was developed by the Snowdrop Escape development team. I have done a review on Snowdrop Escape and that was an incredible game as well. It had a very unique feel to it, but this game is no way connected to Swelter. There is a few Easter eggs here and there, but the story and setting is completely different. Swelter's introduction pretty much gives us an overview of the story in a really good way. You get the protagonist telling you what's going down, but you also get this journal which shows a map of the resistance forces moving its way into Central Asia from Eastern Europe, encountering the Black Squad led by a man called Roki, to work together to fight the Combine and help house refugees. It seems that there's this what you need to know booklet for members of Resistance before you get into Central Asia, which I think is kind of funny. Apparently some fuck shit went down and the Black Squad were pretty self-centered, focusing more on the local goals of this area than the liberation of Earth. The protagonist views the Black Squad as no longer allies with the Resistance. Some random woman pops up, then tells us that she found us just in the nick of time and we need to infiltrate the Black Squad to make amends. And we need to find and gain the trust of someone called Academic, who's an old friend of Roki. Oh yeah, she also tells us that we gotta jump off a train because the train no longer stops in the city due to the rebellion. This plan of hers seems absolutely bonkers, but surely she's got this whole shtick down pat. It's not like the train is going full speed and we'll hit our head on a metal pole or something. Anyway, after we hit our head on a metal pole jumping off a train going full speed, we bump into another old friend, the Combine, and jump on a moving train to escape from them before finally meeting up with Resistance fighters who get you all sorted and gear you up real good. I think maybe one person says something like, "Oh shit, it looks like you hit your head," but honestly after about an hour you kind of forget that you jumped off a moving train going full speed and hit your head on a metal pole. It's only a little bit later that it becomes apparent, as the protagonist has delayed brain trauma. You get informed by old mate that the citizens have been on strike due to a water shortage.
Negotiations? No! brutal suppression.
So obviously the resistance and the community at large is kind of pissed, so the resistance have been recruiting everyone willing to fight to set a stronger rebellion in motion. You then interrupt a lecturer who turns out to be the guy we're looking for, Academic. Judging by his lecture and the writing on the chalkboard, the false narrative that the Combine seem to spout is that life outside the city wall is unbearable. However, the truth of the matter is that the Combine regime does not guarantee security, justice, food, and water for its community. Whereas outside the city walls in free communes, there is an abundance of food and even entertainment media without any oppressive behaviors by the cops or security units. This is where things get confusing. You gain the trust of him after doing a bunch of awesome shit, then you get invited by a member of the resistance to the Black Battalion. The girl called Chico at the start of the campaign lets you know that Academic is an agent of Lambda Resistance, all the while being friends with Roki. So it's kind of strange that there's this Lambda Resistance what you need to know when you get to Central Asia pamphlet lying around which paints Roki to be the villain, and Roki seems fine that one of his besties is a part of the resistance. But the more you think about it, it kind of makes sense that the resistance, being more of a global operation than local squad like the Black Squad, will have conflicting ideologies in regard to how to deal with Roki. I find it interesting that the pamphlet is read aloud in the protagonist's voice. It could be hinting to the fact that this operation in itself is not widely believed by all members of the resistance, or even known by the majority of resistance fighters, even Academic himself. We briefly touch on why the resistance don't like Roki or the Black Squad, and as a joke I called them self-centered, but are they really? And if they are, what's bad about caring more about your local community than trying to fight the entire Combine force as a whole? Academic is providing realistic assistance to the community, telling them how to survive in a time of war, and the resistance have declared them an enemy for doing so. That's like aliens coming down, stealing all our shit, sapping our resources, water supplies, and brainwashing our inhabitants to work for them, and then I'm being told that I'm a bad guy for caring more about my community in another region. There's even a scene where Academic asks two construction workers if they want to join the resistance, to which the construction workers say, nah, fuck that, I got kids, man, and Academic's like, that's all good, fam, no stress. The Citadel, located in 17, is the main headquarters for the Combine, and the massive megastructure running under the puppet Dr. Wallace Breen is located around 3.5 thousand kilometers, or over 2,000 miles away from where we are currently. And the resistance really have beef with some guy in Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan for not coming over to Bulgaria or something to help them raid the Citadel? What? Is no one able to help the community? It's here that we begin to ask ourselves, is the protagonist a cunt? Or is Roki really doing something wrong here? To give an example of something quite interesting about the protagonist, he actually distracts a Combine cop at the start of the game, which results in a little scuffle from rebellionists, resulting in their deaths. In response, this protagonist just dips and finds his mates. I mean, I get this is an action sequence, and what can you do in that situation? But I mean, it just looks bad. Maybe this is symbolizing the Resistance's ideology of staying true to their global goals instead of helping out the locals. After all, you only help local areas in this campaign to deceive Academic. And when you really think about the opening, you realize that you're expendable. You're told to jump out of a moving train. For fuck's sake, the Resistance, or this offshoot of the Resistance that you're working for, obviously don't give a shit about your safety. And the cherry on top is that they give you this information last minute and you're just expected to jump and risk your life. And I think it's also important to note out that this character doesn't really have a name. I think someone said that it was John Swelter, but you never really hear yourself be addressed by a name. A lot of people just call him the protagonist. To play devil's advocate, in Half-Life 2 there are plenty of examples of people being prosecuted and killed for avoiding or trying to escape the Combine's oppression. So perhaps the Resistance is just trying to get people to look at things on more of a global scale, and actually trying to stop people from being murdered by escaping this city and trying to start building wheat fields or some shit in Whoop Whoop. Maybe Roki is so powerful an ally that he actually has it in him to take out the Citadel. Gordon Freeman did it as close to a one-man army as you could get, so maybe Roki's being a pussy and delaying Earth's liberation. Meanwhile, you did jump off a moving train for the sake of humanity, not for Central Asia. The conflict of ideologies and how best to deal with the Combine is pretty complex the more you think about it. It's more possible that taking Roki out actually leads to a domino effect which strengthens the entire rebellion with destroying the Citadel in the events of Half-Life 2. But does the end justify the means? Recently I've been reading a lot of Russian novels. Two of my favorite this year is We by Yevgeny Zamyatin and Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky brothers. So it's kind of funny how my first step back into the YouTube world is a retrospective on a Russian mod. But something that the Russians do really well is philosophical discussion on morality and meaning, both of these books being awesome examples in their own right. But what I'm trying to say is it's interesting that the whole discussion of morality, ambiguity is present in this mod which takes place in a familiar world that we are all accustomed to. HB02 is another perfect example of that. It took the source material from Half-Life 2 and asked the question, would you feel bad for a Combine cop? How could you? Well, you do. In fact, you're thrusted into a situation where you even root for one. And HB02 expands on the Half-Life discussion and overall conversation about good versus evil, just like this mod does. Anywho, tangent out of the way. Academic trusts you now, and you are invited to join Roki's anarchist Black Battalion Discord server. And interestingly, it doesn't sound like he knows that you know who Roki is. It's evident when Academic says, "My old friend is in command of a very strong resistance combat commune. I promise to send him the best of the best." Interestingly, when you make it to your next resistance camp, there is a US Marine who says that he fought in Panama, the Persian Gulf, and Somalia with the same weapons that he's holding. He expresses his desire to escape from this conflict and go to some green forest away from civilization, seeking absolute peace, only occasionally reporting that his sector far away is clear and that no enemies are sighted. It's small things like these that add to the story as a whole. Just a single NPC with a dream can make a world feel real. And also, this guy is a member of the Resistance, but does his personal goal align with the global goals of the Resistance? No. The Lambda leader at this camp says that you've come at the wrong time as they have enough of their own problems to deal with, but he lets you know that there is a cassette tape waiting for you, and no surprise, it's Chaiko who wanted you to jump off the train. She lets you know that the Black Resistance is dominant in the area that you're heading to, but your Resistance fighters are still in alliance with them in this area, even though they don't like it when you flash your badge as tensions are still rising. But for the time being, you're united by your common goal, which is obviously the demise of the Combine. She yet again reminds you to infiltrate the Black Battalion and make amends. With that, you're off, and you're told to not come back if the Combine are on your tail. You come across a boathouse where you get informed that living in the river sucks balls, even fish have a metal aftertaste. Apparently it's worse than the Nutri paste, which I assume is the gelatinated calorie paste from Half-Life 2. Remember, if you're ever going to consume this delicious egg-flavored paste, consume it within 9,000 days. Interestingly, the same lady in this boathouse lets you know that she just wanted to continue living in the place she calls home. But even if she wanted to go back to the city now, she would be prosecuted or killed by the Combine. A lot of Russian novels actually have this same theme. In Roadside Picnic, there is these areas that are like completely fucked, to put it simply, and people keep living there just because it's home. It could be symbolizing the rise of the Soviet Union, but let's not get political here. It's something that humans can understand and relate to. If shit hits the fan in your home city, a lot of people will just decide to stay because it's home. After some bugs and aliens get killed, then some hardcore park or old mate in a hard hat lets you know that there's a sick ride waiting for you in the garage to continue heading to the Black Battalion. He won't come with you, but he'll use the new sniper scopes to take out some of the bug-eyed freaks. This whole area is awesome, and there's actually a bonus night mode for this map included with this mod, which looks incredible as well, if there wasn't enough content in this free-to-play game as is. After this, you will find your first anarchist village, and you're told to meet the leader before continuing on your journey. The leader asks you to run the sandbag repeller in order to gain the anarchist hall pass through the gate. Interestingly, when you leave, the leader of this local anarchist group gives you some friendly advice on not siding with the resistance. He informs you that further on you'll see what the Combines do to people who shelter resistance fighters. When you finally make it to Roki's Black Battalion, you see that Academic's words ring true, as there's vegetables like carrots and tomatoes and soup being brewed amongst a really chill guitar player. Everyone seems happy and content with full bellies. You even get offered to try some as soon as you enter by the guy who's cooking it. When you find Roki, you see him talking to a resistance fighter who is tied to the chair. Roki feels that the Lambda resistance fighter is undermining the operation of some railway smuggling going on, and the resistance fighter does not give a shit. This makes Roki pretty fucking pissed off, as he believes because of the resistance actions, the Combine are bombing innocent civilians in these peaceful steppe villages. By the way, steppes are just a large area of flat, unforested grassland in the southeastern Europe or Siberia. Roki punches or slaps the resistance fighter over on the chair after the resistance fighter points out that there's too many people that they need to worry about in the city, and the small exchange of lives lost in the steppes is justified. It's important to note that I thought instantly Roki killed this resistance fighter, but he merely just kicked him over and left him to lie, tied up on a chair. Roki then implores you to check out their sweet contraband so you're able to understand why they're taking risks in the train smuggling. The contraband turns out to be a mother and her child. The mother here informs you that you can procreate far away from the radiation of the alien invasion and build humanity's future. Thus, Roki is not simply smuggling babies, but the future of humanity's safety. This is an interesting confliction with the general lore of Half-Life 2, but it could be explained away by Combine propaganda. In Half-Life 2, the suppression field, a technology of the invading Combine, is thought to have a global range actively around the entirety of Earth, pretty much just stopping people from having babies and making sure that humans eventually just die out from no procreation. This could, however, be propaganda that academia is trying to disprove in his lectures, and I guess if we were to take this as canon, the baby is proof. Perhaps the suppression field only has a range in specific zones around cities, and they try and say that, you know, it's everywhere just so you don't leave the cities, but I'll let this slide for this plotline's sake. Or maybe the baby's an animatronic. You never know, right? But no time for ideological warfare. You actually get attacked by a Combine airship straight after this and have to take it down with explosives. Apparently this is the resistance fighters doing, drawing attention to Roki's operation, or is it? Is it really here for the resistance fighter, or is it here for the anarchists? There is a lot of red herrings, but I'm not gonna lie, I like that. Just like the baby we saw, we are left to debate on what the facts are and what is either Combine or anarchist or resistance propaganda. Like, would you trust any single one of them with the absolute truth on everything? A lot of people think that this is actually a downside of the story and the story has plot holes, but I actually extremely disagree with that sentiment. In a great story, like think of A Song of Ice and Fire and all of the best stories out there, you don't need to explain everything. A part of the beauty is that certain things are not explained, and there's multiple types of evidence that point to each little thing, and yeah, it's good. I like it. Yeah. After you take out the airship, Roki lets you know that a very special operation involving humanity's survival will take place tonight. And on this train you get a friendly reminder that your brain trauma is catching up with you, and you need to sit down to catch a breather. The start of the next mission's landscape and sunset is downright gorgeous. I was blown away with the overall feel and differentiation between locations. But before continuing through the station, you get some complications with power distributions in this area, and you must come up with another solution to open the main gates. With your 1000 IQ busted open brain, you use the train's power supply to power the gates and continue on through. And it's here you get some information on why this tunnel was was built and what your mission involves. This secret tunnel was built for the evacuation of the state security staff, in case of a nuclear war, but the Combine are not guarding this exit tunnel since they don't know about it. Therefore, you're heading straight into their chill spot, entirely unnoticed. He also points out that you're being suspiciously quiet. Regardless, the mission continues and you head straight into enemy territory. He asks you to act quietly at first, but it seems that wishful thinking only lasts approximately 2.5 seconds before you staunch a Combine soldier and grief the building. You must take control of the Nexus's security system as quick as possible before Overwatch calls for reinforcements. A bit later on, you two not only team up to gun down waves of Combines, but he takes care of a control room while you work on a force field generator to continue on your path. You end up fortifying the position as to make it harder for the Combine to storm it again, and you're able to find out what you came for here in the first place. But before that, you finally face your first ever Combine elites. I also want to take note, I like the action sequence where you fight the Combine as they are drilling into the area that your friends are located, and your friends try and shoot you suspecting that you're the Combine before realizing, oh shit, that's not a Combine soldier. That really caught me off guard, but it made sense. I thought one of two things. I thought, oh shit, the Combine have taken over, or my friends actually realized that I'm a little snitch. You continue fighting on with Roki, and you are forced to escape through a tunnel lower into the buildings as the Combine try to gas you out. Also, you see broadcasts of Wallace Breen, and you see posters of him as well. Your headaches come back full force, and you chuck your guts up on the floor and get dragged into an elevator to continue on. Roki could have just left you to die, but he chooses to save your life. You get awakened by Chico asking what the hell has happened to you and if you've hit your head. Yeah. You told me to jump off a train going full speed. Of course I'm fucked in the head. And it's here that you finally get a well-deserved flashback involving your mission with Roki. Roki, as it turns out, is the only reason why the Black Squad anarchist group remain a stable entity, and your Make Amends mission is a code word for his execution, staging his death as an accident. As it turns out, his murder is kept top secret as Roki has eyes and ears everywhere, which explains why you had to gain the trust of academia, someone who obviously likes the guy and has no idea what this Make Amends mission entails. This is another aspect of the story that people think is a plot hole, but from what we know, only like 4 people, including yourself, actually know about this Make Amends mission. It seems that this is just a small group in the Resistance trying to do their own thing to fit their own vision of how the world will survive. Chico hopes that you haven't bought into his supposed fantasies that you could simply sit out the Combine invasion idly. So you're left with 2 options. Kill Roki or don't kill Roki, but now's not the time. You hop into a car with Roki, who realizes that the Combine cannot let you both leave without a scratch. So he stages both of your deaths with corpses in an aircraft that you both enter. It's kind of funny how things turn out. You're meant to stage his death because you're supposed to assassinate him and make it look like an accident, but he's staging both of your deaths so you both get off scot-free and the Combine don't look for you. When you leave the runway and get into the sky, you have to fight off drones and a Combine airship in a pretty spectacular Call of Duty epic way. But just before you parachute off, Roki reveals that you're caught out. Someone has snitched on you and you're left to make a hasty decision. Academic is the one who's snitched, and it's really important to point out that when you were interrupting his lecture, his subtitles were actually red. Could that have been like foreshadowing that he would eventually rat you out? I think it's really fucking smart if that's the case. Kill Roki and set the motion of the Resistance to prioritize the global goals of the liberation of Earth. Or let him live. Believe in Roki's dreams and the future of humanity, outlasting and outliving the Combine's rule. After all, you've been through quite a lot together and he has saved your life. The Resistance and the Black Anarchist Squad can live together and perhaps accomplish the same things. If you choose to kill Roki, without him the anarchist communes become scattered and uncoordinated. They eventually all turn to the Lambda resistance, and in 12 years after these events, the hero of the resistance movement will reduce the City 17 citadel to rubble. The next two endings, whether you choose to do nothing or chuck the gun away, play out pretty much the same. The failed assassination attempt tarnishes Lambda's reputation. 12 years after, City 17 was still reduced to a pile of radioactive ruins. The government lost control of the situations and civilians started dispersing into the free world that Roki always dreamed of. Throughout history, there have always been charismatic leaders and groups fighting for control, and you're left to wonder, what if certain historical figures were assassinated by different political or ideological parties? What events would remain the same or change for the future of the planet that we live on? I feel that this game is an exploration of just that thought in the world of Half-Life, and does a pretty good job at doing so. At first, I irrefutably sided with Roki because I feel that we all have a bit of Roki in all of us. We care for the people around us, we help one another in times of need, but in dire situations, you can only do so much from the ground up before tearing the whole building down. Before we end this video, I want to touch on the main bonus level this mod includes at Aperture Science, where you get overrun by a group of liquidators and you have to fight your way out. There were some interesting puzzles and fun gunfights, but not gonna lie, I had trouble with the hanging crates, man. That shit was janky as fuck, and I probably died more here than anywhere else in the campaign. Overall, it's a nice addition to an already spectacular game that was a ton of fun. Another bonus map aside from the nighttime one that I already touched on is a firing range, which I had more fun on than I'd like to admit. Overall, this was an incredible game, and I actually like it more after watching back the gameplay and really understanding the story. The fact that they were able to convey this whole story, even though they're not native English speakers, shows us that there's probably more to it than we know. There's always like lost in translation issues, and they still did a really good job. The visuals and gameplay is just incredible, so even if you don't care about the story, you will still have a great time. I think I only crashed once as well. It's incredibly optimized and it runs smoothly on my computer at least. This is up there, man. This is one of the best mods that I've ever played. This is up there with Entropy 02, and I'm extremely glad that we got to see another resistance group who isn't the resistance, because obviously there would be other groups out there in other parts of the world that focus on other things. Anyway, that is it, guys. This game was a lot of fun to film, and I'm glad that I'm back. I'll try and upload more, so I hope that this video does well. I'm not sure if this video will do well. It's been 2 years since I've made a Half-Life mod review. I could say that I've just been busy with university and work, which I have, and I just don't have time, but that's an excuse. I made a 6-hour retrospective on Dark Souls, and it didn't really do that well, and I kind of got discouraged from making YouTube videos, because obviously my niche is mod reviews. That's what people come here for, so hope you enjoy it. Anyway, that is it, guys. My name is Moldy Fish Dicks, and I hope you have a great day. As always, stay safe, stay humble, stay sexy. Suck your nipple.